What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Chef Jeff Philbin. We're inside the Effin' Sharp Prep School, where today you're gonna learn how to cook this awesome dish. We're gonna be doing a mint pea risotto with, of course, a beautiful pan-seared salmon. We start here with a nice hot broth. Nice chicken stock is what we want. This is going to be really ladled into our rice because we want to make sure that we have that starchiness that comes out of it. It's going to be sweet, it's going to be fun, it's going to be nice. The peas are already starting to boil. I cooked these already in a little bit of that same with a vegetable stock. The reason why, I want flavor for it. We want to make sure that those get tender. We're going to put those into our food processor, mint, butter, a little white wine, and the key, truffle oil. Infuse some more flavor, some depth behind that. That's gonna make for a really cool dish for a base that's folded into our really, really nice risotto. So, peas are going. The broth is starting to warm up. Let's start working with our rice here. So, you start off with arborio rice. We're gonna make this pan nice and warm. We wanna toast all of the rice with a little bit of the butter. Hold down the butter into our pan, and we're gonna just let that work its way all the way around and melt down to create a nice surface area that's smooth, that's silky, but also allows for some flavor. Our rice is already pre-measured. We're gonna add that in just a little bit. Let those butters really come alive in that plate. The peas are looking really good. We start with a nice boil on them, so that way then we can get them to really cook. The food processor, if you have a really cool, great one, you can actually be able to bring up temperature. That's a fun-filled fact for those novice homeowners that want to use a high-end blender, but we want to really cook this. We're using spring peas. They're light and they're really tender when they're cooked right, and they balance really well with mint, and that's going to really come alive in this dish. Our butter's starting to really form here. It's starting to foam, which is exactly what you want with this. Once it really creates that base and we're really buttered and cooked down, our rice is gonna go straight into that pan. And we're gonna give it a nice little toss into that butter. What you're really wanting to do of this is toast it, bring out some of the caramelization factor properties of this, and really coat it and bring out a nice cooked base to it. That pan is hot, and that's what you want. That butter's well incorporated into that rice is where it's going to be. Our peas are working, they're good to go. Our broth right here is really coming up to a nice little bit of a simmer, which is exactly what you want. Ladle by ladle, we're going to be adding all of that flavor into our risotto. Parmesan cheese. It's crazy. It's fun. This is what this dish is all about. It's elegance on a plate. It's something that you in your own kitchen can really do. We all have pots. We all have the pans. We all have all the equipment. We just need a little love and a little TLC, and that's all that matters. And that's what we're going to do right here, right now. Now, another piece of this base with this rice is going to be really kind of bring out a nice onion flavor is fennel. Fennel's a really great way to infuse softer flavors within the onion family into a dish. And we're gonna take a nice sharp knife and we're just going to get some nice dices into our base here. We're gonna throw that into that pan with all that rice, so that way then it actually cooks with it, and we start to really infuse more flavor, and you can hear it really sizzle, really pop, really come alive in that dish. And that's going to just liven this dish up a little bit. So we just took some diced fennel, and you wanna use the bulb of the fennel. That's where it's gonna be really all that flavor of that, really that onioniness, but very light in regards to it. But we're also gonna keep these. This is gonna make for a really nice presentation when the whole plate is done and plated. So, right when it starts to really start to show some color and get a little toasty with that nice little bit of a goldenness that we want, we're gonna actually add some white wine. And we're going to let that white wine really absorb and cook down into that flavor of that rice, of that fennel, and you can just really smell it. It's really quite lovely, actually. This is the part where you can start to season. You can start layering and adding that base in. So we're gonna add just a little bit of some salt, a little bit of some pepper, and just stir it in. And that's that. The peas are looking really, really good, which is exactly what we want. We want to make sure that we also taste along that way. The peas are almost there. They need a few more minutes to really cook and absorb some more flavor. And all of this beautiful white wine, it's really deglazing the pan, cooking it down, infusing some flavor. And once it really gets absorbed into the rice grains, that's where the fun happens. And if we time it just right, our peas will be ready, our rice will be ready, and all that stock is gonna go straight in. And the way in which you know that it's ready to start adding that broth is when it starts to get a little bit creamier, the starches are starting to release, it's a little bit firmer to really move around in the pan. That's when you know that you are ready. And one ladle at a time, you add in medium-high heat and stir. And you continue this until it starts to cook out and evaporate. And this process is a lot of love, it's a lot of care, it's a lot of monitoring. You're constantly stirring. You're making sure that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. You're making sure that all of that broth cooks in, that starch is released. And ladle by ladle, one at a time, we're going to let that come alive in this dish. Our peas are done. Our peas are going to go into that blender. Into that blender, fresh mint, a little bit of butter, ladle by ladle into that pan. And stir. Continue to stir. All right, we've got that mint. We've got the peas. And we're just gonna take the leaves of the mint, the peas, into the pan. A little bit of butter. You want about 2 tablespoons worth in. Into the blender, we've got our peas, our mint, a little bit of butter, a little bit of truffle oil, and a real secret ingredient to this, fresh lemon juice and fresh lemon zest. I start with the zest first. I just take a nice little microplane in and get our lemon zest. The lemon zest is really nice because it lets out all of the natural oils into that dish. A little lemon juice in. Into the pan. We taste for what it might need or its consistency at this point. I taste the peas, I taste the mint, the truffle oil, the lemon freshens it, it livens up the entire dish. It's what it needs. So we're gonna be ready to go. That is gonna be folded into this risotto at the last stage. We're gonna add a little bit of some Parmesan cheese at that point as well. because it's going to bring up a natural saltiness that comes with it and let that really come alive. So this risotto is still cooking. We've got another ladle that just went in, and we're going to keep stirring and adding a lot of love, letting all those starches come out of it to really make it really smooth, really silky, and just really creamy. That's when you know you've got a great risotto. Some might make the argument that the star of the dish is the risotto. I don't think it's that at all. I think the real star of it is this incredible salmon with the skin on. I'm keeping that skin on because I'm going to get a nice sear off of it. And the way in which I'm going to do that is take a very sharp paring knife, and we're going to just make nice little incisions across the flesh of the salmon. When you know you have a great knife is when the knife does all of the work for you. And when it comes to salmon or any fish with skin, a paring knife is going to be your best friend because you can penetrate in, but you're not necessarily going to jeopardize the integrity of that meat and that greatness that's in there. And that is the key to using an incredible paring knife and getting deep into it, the skin, but not deep into that flesh. We're gonna season our fish now. You season a fish right before you hit the cooking surface. If you season it too soon with salt, you're going to take out all the moisture in that fish. So you do it right before you really need to hit the pan. We've got a nice non-stick pan, a little bit of olive oil into the pan that's already warm. We're also going to add a little bit of butter. The butter and the olive oil is going to form a nice base to really infuse flavor into that crispy skin. You score with a very sharp knife the salmon because you want all of that flavor to be infused. The scoring allows for it to be spread so that way then it doesn't contract it. It doesn't bring it back in. It can move with the fish as it's cooking. Into that pan, hot, butter, olive oil, skin side down first with that score. We're going to continue to stir our risotto here. A little bit more. Our broth going in. Continue to stir and monitor the fish. You want to make sure that you can see it moving around in the pan. You hear that sizzle and you get that beautiful flavor in. And we're going to monitor our skin. We want it to be nice and crispy. The presentation is all on the front end. It's all on the skin. That's why scoring with a sharp knife is paramount to this dish. The real cook is actually going to come on the flip. Into that pan. The risotto is almost there. It's almost ready for me to add in our peas right now. All right, continuing to stir our risotto here, we're going to just fold in a little bit at a time our truffle mint pea puree. It's going to add a little bit more flavor behind it. It's going to add that color. It'll be a nice addition to this dish. We're also going to add Parmesan cheese. The Parmesan cheese is going to bind it all together. It's also going to bring out a nice nuttiness and really also a nice little bit of salt. Our salmon is cooked, it's ready. We're going to let this rest while we finish up this risotto. Constantly stirring to make sure that all that flavor is infused. This This is gonna be an awesome risotto, I'm not gonna lie right now. This is gonna be killer. All right, the risotto is ready. We're gonna bring this to our pan here. We can actually bring back that ladle. Already got a little bit of liquid, so it'll make it nicely easy to stick and have portion control. Into the center of the plate, our risotto with this beautiful mint pea and truffle risotto will live. We have this really lovely salmon that sits right on the top. We took the strands from our bit from the fennel. We're just gonna kind of top, shred about, put that across the way. Really kind of just come alive, bring a little color, and of course a little vibrancy. A little bit of some fresh lemon zest to make it all come together. And for good measure, a little bit of fresh lemon juice. And that is how you make this awesome risotto dish, this beautiful salmon that sits right on top of it. You too can make this dish, and you should do it. I want to see it. Make sure that when you are on Instagram, you take your photos of it, you tag effing sharp knives on it, because you know what? I want to see what you can do like I can do.